Welcome to Mr. Haunt's dungeon, where the darkness comes alive. Dive into spine-chilling tales and eerie encounters that will keep you on the edge of your seat. If you love the thrill of a good scare, hit that subscribe button and join us for new frightening and true stories. Don't miss out, fear awaits. Now, sit back, relax, and let's get to the story. Something haunts my lighthouse. In the year 1893, I took up the post of lighthouse keeper on the isolated cliffs of Ravenspoint. The lighthouse stood tall and lonely, battered by relentless waves and eerie winds. The locals whispered that it was haunted, but I was a practical man, uninterested in ghost stories. I believed in what I could see and touch. And so, armed with a lantern and a logbook, I settled into my new quarters. One stormy night, as I was writing in my log, I heard a faint whispering. At first I dismissed it as the wind, but the whispers grew louder, almost forming words. I strained to hear, my pen poised over the paper. "Edmund, help us." The voice was faint, echoing through the cold stone walls. I shivered and set my pen down, searching the room with my lantern. But I was alone. The wind outside howled, but inside the air was still. That night, I hardly slept, the whispering voices playing in my mind. A month into my duty, I decided to clean the lantern room. As I polished the glass, I felt a sudden chill, despite the warmth of the lamp. I turned and saw a figure in the corner, barely visible in the dim light. It was a woman, her eyes hollow and her dress tattered. She seemed to float rather than stand. My heart raced and I backed away, nearly stumbling over my cleaning supplies. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice trembling. The apparition raised a hand, pointing towards the sea. "They took me," she whispered, her voice like a distant echo. "Find my child." With that, she vanished, leaving me in a cold sweat. I ran down the stairs, determined never to return to the lantern room alone at night. Weeks later, I was keeping watch during a dense fog. Visibility was nearly zero, and I strained my eyes to spot any ships in distress. Suddenly, through the thick mist, I saw the silhouette of a massive ship, its sails tattered and its hull covered in seaweed. It moved silently, without the sound of creaking wood or splashing waves. I grabbed my telescope, but as I focused on the ship, it vanished as quickly as it had appeared. I reported the sighting in my log, but the next day the entry was gone, as if someone had torn out the page. I searched my quarters but found no evidence of intrusion. The ship haunted my thoughts, and I couldn't shake the feeling that it was a warning. One evening I was writing in my logbook when the pages began to turn on their own. The candle flickered, casting strange shadows on the walls. I tried to hold the pages still, but an unseen force resisted. Finally, the pages stopped on an entry dated 50 years earlier. The writing was unfamiliar, but the words sent a chill down my spine. "The spirits of the sea demand retribution. We are cursed. We are lost." I tried to turn the page, but it remained frozen, the words etched into my mind. I closed the logbook, vowing to leave the past undisturbed, but I could not escape the feeling that I was being watched. One night, just past midnight, I was jolted awake by a loud knocking on my door. I grabbed my lantern and opened the door, but no one was there. The knocking continued, now coming from the walls themselves. I followed the sound to the base of the lighthouse, where I found an old, rusted door I had never noticed before. Hesitant, I opened it and found a narrow staircase leading down into darkness. The knocking grew louder, echoing up the stairs. Holding my lantern high, I descended, each step creaking under my weight. At the bottom I found an old chest, its lid slightly ajar. Inside was a collection of children's toys, worn and weathered by time. As I touched one of the toys, the knocking ceased, replaced by the faint sound of children's laughter. I hurried back up the stairs, slamming the door behind me, the laughter still echoing in my ears. On a calm, moonlit night, I was outside repairing the lighthouse's outer wall when I heard singing. The melody was haunting, a lullaby carried on the wind. I followed the sound to the edge of the cliff, where I saw a woman standing at the precipice, her long hair flowing in the breeze. "Who are you?" I called out, but she did not respond. She continued to sing, her voice filled with sorrow. I stepped closer, but she vanished, leaving only the lingering notes of her song. That night I dreamt of her, her song echoing in my mind, a sad tale of love lost to the sea. I often heard footsteps echoing in the lighthouse when I was alone. They would start at the top of the tower and slowly descend, stopping just outside my door. One night, determined to confront whatever was haunting me, I waited in my quarters, lantern in hand. The footsteps began as usual, slow and deliberate. When they reached my door, I flung it open, but there was no one there. Instead, I felt a rush of cold air and a sense of deep sadness. I realized the footsteps were those of a former keeper, forever trapped in his nightly rounds. During a particularly violent storm, I was in the lantern room, ensuring the light remained steady. The wind howled outside and the tower shook with each powerful gust. Amidst the chaos, I heard a voice, clear and distinct, calling my name. "Edmund." I turned, but saw no one. The voice continued, closer now. "Help us, Edmund." It was the voice of a child. My heart pounded as I searched the room, but I was alone. The voice faded, leaving me with an overwhelming sense of despair. One foggy evening, I noticed another light out at sea, moving erratically. It was too small to be a ship and too bright to be a buoy. I tried to signal it, but it did not respond. The light seemed to dance on the waves, drawing closer to the lighthouse. As it neared, I saw it was a lantern, carried by a ghostly figure in a long coat. The figure walked on the water, heading straight for the lighthouse. Terrified, I watched as it reached the shore and then vanished. The phantom light continued to appear on foggy nights, a beacon of doom for those who saw it. After years of enduring the hauntings, I decided to leave Ravenspoint. I packed my belongings and made my way to the nearest village, but as I crossed the threshold of the lighthouse, I felt an unseen force pull me back. I struggled, but my feet seemed rooted to the ground. The air grew cold, and I saw the spirits of those who had haunted me over the years, the woman, the child, the former keeper. They surrounded me, their faces filled with sorrow. "You cannot leave," they whispered in unison. "You are one of us now." I fought against the invisible grip, but it was as if the lighthouse itself had come alive, determined to keep me within its grasp. The walls seemed to close in, and I felt my breath grow short. The spirit's whispers grew louder, filling my ears with a cacophony of despair. In a final, desperate effort, I managed to break free, sprinting towards the door. As I reached the threshold, I tripped and fell, feeling a sharp pain in my leg. The ground seemed to give way beneath me, and I tumbled down the rocky cliffside, the lighthouse looming above like a malevolent sentinel. I lay there, battered and bruised, as the waves crashed around me. Gasping for breath, I looked up to see the spirits standing at the edge of the cliff, their expressions mournful. They did not follow me, but their presence was a stark reminder of the horrors I had escaped. It took hours to drag myself to safety, and by the time I reached the village, I was half delirious with pain and exhaustion. The locals found me and took me in, nursing me back to health. I never returned to Ravenspoint, but the memories of that place haunt me still. I can only hope that the lighthouse has found another keeper, someone braver or more foolish than I, who can withstand the ghosts of Ravenspoint. For as long as it stands, that cursed beacon will continue to draw the lost souls of the sea, forever trapped in their endless vigil.